Hi, this is Paul Wight. I know I'm not covered in green, but you still might recognize me as the Orion slaver from Star Trek Enterprise. And you can catch my unique interview with my friend Matthew on Trek Untold. You don't want to miss it.
Hello and welcome to Trek Untold, the Star Trek podcast that goes beyond the stars. I'm your host, Matthew Kaplowitz. This episode has the biggest guest we have ever had on Trek Untold, and that's no BS. He is not only the biggest, he is also the most elite. This guest stands over 7 feet tall and weighs over 400 pounds, and his hand is bigger than my head. That's right, it's none other than Mr. Paul Wight from All Elite Wrestling. You might be wondering, what the heck does a guy from AEW have to do with Star Trek? Well, you may remember Paul from the Season 4 episode of Star Trek Enterprise, Borderlands, where he played an Orion slave trader. That's right, he was the one that basically got to abduct T'Pol, throw her around a little bit during the auction, and ultimately get kicked in the groin by her. But as it turns out, Paul is a huge Trekkie, something I was shocked to discover, and he has been for all of his life. Beyond Enterprise, you've seen Paul in Jingle All the Way, The Waterboy, MacGruber, Burn Notice, Psych, and The Big Big Show on Netflix. But chances are, if you're like me, you've been watching him for years inside the Squared Circle, where he has held gold in pretty much every company he's been in, including the WCW Heavyweight Championship, and is a Triple Crown and Grand Slam champion inside the WWE, winning basically every single major title in singles and in the tag division across the many years he was in that company. But these days, he's dropped the BS and is just himself, Paul Wight, over in AEW, where he now serves as a color commentator and analyst for the company, as well as occasionally putting on the tights once again to do some damage in the ring. What better time than right now, as we are days away from AEW Revolution on Sunday, March 6th, to chat with Paul about Star Trek and pro wrestling, two things that have been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. And speaking of, you will not want to miss AEW Revolution this year. It's going to be a real amazing event, including a dog collar match between MJF and CM Punk, which is going to probably be just as bloody, if not more so, than the Greg Valentine and Roddy Piper match from Starrcade 83. We're also going to see Bryan Danielson battling Jon Moxley in what will certainly be a very hard-hitting bout. Chris Jericho is going to brawl with Eddie Kingston. Dr. Britt Baker will defend her AEW Women's Championship belt against one of my personal favorites, Thunder Rosa. And in the main event, we're going to see Hangman Adam Page defend his AEW World Heavyweight Championship against Adam Cole, baby. And by the way, apologies for making the same big jokes you just heard in this intro as you're going to hear at the start of my interview with Paul Wight. I was totally marking out, I was going insane here talking to Captain Insano, and can you blame me? I mean, really, how often do I get a chance to merge my two fandoms together, pro wrestling and Star Trek, into one awesome thing? So I hope you enjoy, because I had a great time, and I'm pretty sure Paul did as well. But before we begin this week's episode, if you'd like to support this show, please don't forget to follow Trek Untold on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to get the latest updates and all sorts of other fun Star Trek-related content. You can also check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/TrekUntold, where you can support this show for as little as $2 a month. At higher tiers, you can check out the shows before they come out, know about my guests in advance, and even have a chance to ask them questions, among other benefits coming soon. Shout out to our sponsor, Triple Fiction Productions, who create 3D printed toys and prop replicas inspired by Star Trek. Their items come in all shapes and all sizes and are always amazing, but you're going to hear a little bit more about them later on in the show. If you're listening to us on iTunes or any other audio platform that allows for ratings and reviews, please leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to us at youtube.com/nerdnewstoday and give the video a thumbs up and a comment. Doing any of those things help keep this show growing and allow me to continue bringing you awesome guests and great conversations every single week. Now, without further ado, let's beam in this week's guest. Computer, access interview file. And welcome back to Trek Untold, and now this episode is going to be no BS because we've got the biggest guest, literally, we've ever had on this show. Joining us today is Mr. Paul Wight from AEW. Mr. Wight, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Matthew. Thank you very much for having me. It's not very often I get a chance to come on and also talk about Star Trek, so it's something I'm very proud of. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for saying yes, because this is amazing for me. I was telling you off air, I'm trying not to nerd out here. I'm trying not to mark out, but in my head right now, there's a holy shit chant going on.
I'll tell you a little secret about 99.9% of pro wrestlers. Uh, they all started out as marks first, so it's okay. We understand what it is to mark out. First time I met Ric Flair, I had to go outside and catch my breath because I almost fainted. And I was 22 years old and 7 foot tall and 400 pounds. And yeah, I met Ric Flair. I was like, I got to go out. I had to go outside in Chicago. I had to go outside of the back of the Rosemont and lean on the wall and get some cold Chicago February air to get my head straight. I was cool though. I was chill. That's a funny story for later. It was cool.
Oh, that's awesome. And I've had the chance to get some stuff signed by Ric Flair, but you, on the other hand, have been slapped by Ric Flair. So there's a pretty big difference between our experiences. You've gotten chest chopped and beat up by him, so very different world. But I'm good to hear you're still scared of somebody.
By him. I've had many a liquid libation thrust in my hand and told to drink. Giant, let's go. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun with Rick.
All right, very cool. Well, Paul, I'd like to start the show off just by, before we jump into some wrestling talk and some Star Trek talk, real deep into the Star Trek talk, I want to ask you the question I like to ask all my guests first, and that's, what's your earliest memory of Star Trek? Did you watch it as a kid growing up?
Oh yeah, my mom was a huge Star Trek fan. I actually, all my science fiction cravings I owe to my mom. My mom was a huge science fiction fan and a huge Stephen King fan. So I think I read Christine, I think in like fourth grade, the one with the car, and like the teachers called in and had a meeting with my mom. My mom's like, it's good writing, it's good form. Like, like I was so enamored by stuff that my mom was reading. She got me hooked on Star Trek right away. I mean, I was on every night when I was a kid. Every evening, just before supper, it was on every night, and I used to watch it religiously. My first Star Trek experience that I remember was watching the TV show as a kid and seeing Captain Kirk and Uhura. Actually, when I was a little kid, I had a crush on Uhura. I mean, who didn't? Like, wow, she's pretty. Spock was a little bit spooky to me when I was a kid with the ears, but then I got to like him. And as I got older, I appreciated the rivalry between Doc, Bones, and Spock, and I love that. And I remember going and seeing Star Trek in the theaters when the movie came out. I saw the movie. It was much better than the other science fiction movie that come out around the same time. Do you guys remember a movie called The Black Hole?
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that as a kid.
Star Wars.
Yeah, I did not dig Black Hole at all. Like that was the first time, even as a young kid, I became a movie critic. Like I came out of The Black Hole going, I didn't like that movie, Mom. But Star Trek we were fans of, and it was cool to see the whole Star Trek society that was basically, you have much bigger things to deal with than petty things that are going on at the time. I mean, you had other aliens that you were dealing with, ambassadors, how to deal with them, the language, the outfits, the thought, provoking your imagination as a young adult to think about traveling the stars and becoming more than you are.
That's a great answer, Paul. I'm happy to hear that you were like such a Trekkie growing up and so into it. And we're going to come back to Star Trek, of course, in a little bit, but I want to ask you a few things about AEW because you've certainly been enjoying your time there, I'd say. I mean, how does it feel to be in the company? I mean, now that you're kind of, I imagine, liberated in some ways. I mean, there's kind of like nothing really holds you back there.
Well, it's funny. I mean this with a lot of love and understanding. I am very thankful for every minute that I was a part of WWE. They gave me a brilliant career. I traveled the world. I was a small town kid from South Carolina who didn't know my boots from my laces. And I got to meet some incredible talent, some incredible people behind the scenes, people that really worked very hard that made that company as big as it is, globally, the powerhouse that it is. And I learned a lot there. And I also understood sometimes in life you have to make a change. You have to move. If you stay where you are, you become stagnant. You really start to rot on the vine. And I've never been a guy, and Vince knows this, Kevin Dunn knows this, John Laurinaitis knows this, even Arn Anderson, who works with me now at AEW, they know me. I've never been a guy that sits on my ass and talks about the accolades that I've won. Oh, I've won championships. I don't give a crap. It's important. I don't want to say I don't give a crap because it's important to me at the time. But once that's done, what's today? What's tomorrow? I want to be moving forward and doing more. And I think just the natural evolution in WWE, I had done everything that I could do for that company as a talent. And it was one of those kind of things. Where could I still be a part of the industry, still get in the ring and work with younger talent and really help them and help something grow and build. And I saw an opportunity with AEW. And I don't think there is any animosity between Vince and I definitely don't hate Vince. I'm thankful for everything that him and Stephanie and Linda and Hunter, even, because Hunter was a dear friend, is a dear friend, has been for a long time. I'm thankful for everything that happened there. It's just, I know for me personally as a talent, I wanted to do more, and there just wasn't places for me to do more in WWE. There just wasn't place, and the role that was kind of being lined up for me was a nice, like a ambassador role, kind of like a golden parachute thing. I don't do much and do some media stuff here and there, pop up once in a while. I still wanted more than that. I still want to compete. Now, as far as out running for championships and AEW championships and stuff like that, I think that would be the right opportunity, the right angle. Sure, I would love to be an AEW champion, TNT champion, tag team champion. Anybody that's in this industry, that's competing, that's working professionally, you want to be the best that you can be. You want to be respected by your peers, and you want to be the top of your game. And let's face it, I've been able to secure championships in every company that I've ever, every brand that I've ever worked with, whether it's WCW, WWE, ECW, WWF. So yeah, at some point before I retire, I'm going to have some AEW gold. What it is yet, I don't know, but I will work very hard to earn that. And what I mean by earn it, and I mean just exactly that, earn it. There's a level of competition and a level of ability that I'm expecting from myself. I've talked with Tony about this quite extensively. I want to go out there and be able to compete at a level that I'm proud to compete. And if I can't compete at that level, that's just an honest conversation that, then the time is up. I still feel like I have a lot of things to offer. We've got some bigger guys that are in the pipelines, and some of our developmental stuff that we're working on they're coming out of the Nightmare Factory. So there's some kids down there that I definitely want to work with. There's a few big guys in AEW that I want to run with. I'd love to run with Miro again. I had fun working with Miro when he was doing the whole Rusev gimmick. I would love to run with Miro again. Love to work with Lance Hoyt. I'd love to have some tag team fun. I'd like to have a good tag team partner, and I'd like to run against Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus too. Luchasaurus is for bigger dude, is just a freaky athlete, and I'd like to have some fun with him in the ring. So there's there's a lot of talent in AEW that works so very hard, and the only thing that I think that would help our talent is if we worked more. That's the one thing that I think, knowing from working as many years as I worked on the road, we work 4 or 5 nights a week, every week, year round, and you get better. You get a better understanding of the people you work with. You get a better understanding of your own character. You get a better understanding of the audiences in the different cities. And, with WWE, it was in different countries. Hopefully AEW is going to continue to grow and expand. I'm pestering Tony all the time about trying to do some stuff in England. I think he's got a vision for where he wants to go and what he wants to do with it. And I just want to make sure that hopefully I'm competing when that happens, because I can't wait to go across the pond. And I think the people across the pond will really love our AEW product. So that's it. My whole thing is just being busy, being involved, being competitive, and helping build something grow. And I think that's the greatest thing that AEW has offered me, is that ability to grow for myself. Because, I'm playing around with a commentary role, and I say playing around jokingly, but in all seriousness, it's something I'm very passionate about. I'm lucky to work with Tony Schiavone, and then I work with Excalibur, who's just Excalibur is like sitting next to a savant who knows every single name, every single move. Like, his play calling action is super impressive. And then, of course, we've got JR too, who's like probably one of the best ever to sit in that position.
Living legend.
And yeah, JR just makes it look so easy. It kind of pisses you off a little bit because he's got all the good one-liners at the right time to describe the talent and enhance the talent and get the talent over and describe the action and all those little nuances I'm learning from Tony Schiavone and listening to JR and trying to keep up with Excalibur. Excalibur is just a whole another level, and he's been super tremendous in helping me. One of our behind the scenes guys is a guy by the name of Alex Marvez, who, we see him a little bit on AEW, but Alex has been fantastic at helping me to learn to prep a lot with the younger AEW talent. That's been the other thing too, is like when I was in WWE, I knew everybody come through the door because I'd been there so long. My ass sat at the monitor at Raw, either next to Vince or at the monitor just before you go into Gorilla, where John Cena and I would sit there and watch the shows all the time. I knew the talent that was coming through the pipeline. Excuse me. I knew the talent that was in NXT come to AEW. I had to basically learn a whole new group of talent, a whole new group of personalities. And it's been reinvigorating to see that passion that these AEW talent, the passion that they have for doing the product, the LFG attitude mentality is AEW. Like everything is LFG. Let's friggin' go, but without the friggin'. So there you go.
Yeah, and just to kind of step back for a moment and preface my comments, when I say liberated, I don't mean like you're liberated from this evil giant or anything like that. I mean just creative freedom,
no.
freedom to have, take your destiny in your own hands again.
Well, I'm taking my destiny in my own hands, and it's funny because I've learned, WWE has this very specific way of doing things, and it's obviously worked for them. They're a global, billion-dollar product, and it's worked for them. And things are done differently in AEW. There's a different way that angles are presented. There's a different way that bookings are done, and it works. And if anything, it's reinstituted in my mind, reaffirmed, I guess, that there's no one way to do everything. There are options, and wrestling is a performance art, and wrestling is interpretation. And that's the thing that you've got to do, is make it authentic. As authentic as you bring it, the audience will receive that and accept it. And I think we've got some great fans in AEW that really understand the product and understand the talent. And it's just a very fortunate time for athletes that are considering, professional wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever your moniker is you prefer to call it, now, because there are options, legit options. There are other companies that are springing up as well. So there's opportunity for talent that, you might not fit that WWE mold of character or mold of talent that they're looking for, but you're still passionate. You still can make a connection with an audience. So there is opportunity for you to make that connection. And I think that's the biggest thing that's been important for pro wrestling. And a lot of us as talent that's been around a while see that opportunity, between CM Punk and Bryan Danielson. I mean, this is a very exciting time for pro wrestling. It's an exciting time for AEW right now. I mean, people are passionate about it. And that's, as a performer, if your audience is passionate, then it just makes you work all the harder.
I mean, it feels like a real renaissance in wrestling right now because we've got so much wrestling on throughout the week again on TV, and it's amazing. And so many different companies and different styles of wrestling.
Different styles, which is important. Yeah. And you want to give, I think the more options you can give the fans, I don't care if you watch WWE, I don't care if you watch, TNA or AWA or whatever, or AEW. I mean, I prefer that you watch AEW, of course, but just as long as you're excited about wrestling, because as someone that's very passionate about pro wrestling, I want our fans to find a place that they enjoy watching. You might like a particular talent in WWE and flip over, and you might want to see, Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks or Jungle Boy or Orange Cassidy. You know what I mean? You want to check that talent out. So as long as the fans are excited, then everyone will do well.
Yeah, and AEW's been doing a really great job. I've been enjoying the product. I got to see a live show, in fact, in New York not too long ago, and had a great time there. So it's really great
Which
stuff.
one did you see in New York?
I got to see I got to see MJF in the Diamond Battle Royale where he won, which was great. So then I got to
Now
see the
here's
Lucha
the thing.
Bros.
Here's the thing. MJF, incredible freaking talent. I mean, and I've been around when I've seen, Punk on the mic and Rock on the mic and these incredible guys that we've had cut promos over the years. And then you see MGF, who has that unique ability to literally make people hate him, in a serious way, like visceral hate. And I love the fact that he embraces it, because it's tough, I think, for a lot of talents now, the way our society is driven for likes on Instagram and everybody wants to be liked, but a real heel enjoys being hated. And I love the fact that MJF sees that, embraces it, and he is absolutely freaking brilliant at being a heel. Brilliant.
I had the pleasure of interviewing him back at Toy Fair 2020 face to face, and that was an experience I will never forget. Loved every minute of it. I loved being trashed by him. It was so wonderful.
Yeah. It's good stuff. He's a funny dude. He really is.
So you mentioned that you have some plans that you'd like to do and things you'd like to accomplish in AEW. And last year we got to see you put on the tights a little bit. You got to work with QT Marshall and some other guys. But my big thing here is there still a possibility that you and Shaq are going to get in the ring and have a one-on-one? Because we've seen now Shaq in AEW. Awesome. And I'd love, has that ship sailed or is it ready to go again?
I don't think that ship will ever sail. That's the thing about pro wrestling. I don't think it's ever sailed. I know Shaq's into it. I know Shaq had some stuff that he was dealing with. I actually had my other hip redone December 5th. I had a hip replacement done on my right hip December 5th because it was bothering me. So in my competition after QT, I wasn't comfortable the way I was performing. I was a little bit limited in the way I was moving, and I wasn't happy with it. And so I made the decision, talked with Tony, that we have some big plans for 2022. So I wanted to make sure that I got that fixed and everything was moving forward in a positive direction. So I'm very happy with how the surgery went out. Had it done by Dr. Carlos Alvarado. Did the surgery, and he's the man, the myth, the man to be with. There's no more arthritic hip pain, so I'm like Wolverine now. I'm a rocket sled on rails. It feels amazing to have kind of like a hip and joint pain for 6-7 years, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and it's like, wow, I feel like Papa's got a brand new band. Here we go. So I'm excited for what's coming up in 2022 and being able to really get in and work at a level that that I know I can compete at.
Well, I hope we get to see it happen sometime this year, if not this year, next year, but it's got to happen.
Oh, it'll happen this year. Matthew, it'll happen this year. My big ass is going to be out there humping and bumping, so I'm going to have some fun.
All right, your words to God's ears. Let's do it.
There you go. I love it.
This episode is going to be coming out a little bit closer to WrestleMania time, and right now on my YouTube channel, I'm working on a series where I'm looking at wrestlers' WrestleMania matches throughout their time, and I've actually done one about you. And so I basically watched all of your matches, and I kind of ranked them with my own personal smarky rankings.
That's all right.
I'm curious to hear, what do you think was your favorite WrestleMania match, or maybe, if not most favorite, most meaningful to you?
Most meaningful, I think, well, you got to go with the biggest one that I was ever a part of. Was definitely the Mayweather WrestleMania. That was an incredible promotion. It was incredible chance to sit in the hot seat, so to speak. You're doing all the media, you're doing all the basically the weight of the pay-per-view. You're in a program, and my role was pretty easy. I was working with Floyd Mayweather, so that guy sells pay-per-views pretty easy. But the responsibility for me as a talent to put on a match that would be received well, entertaining, and also I didn't kill a $1 billion talent in the ring by accident, was a lot of varying factors that we had to take into play, and I was very proud of how that all worked out. I think working with John Cena, looking back now, is a very pivotal match, because that was a great start for John Cena before he launched to become one of the biggest stars WWE's ever had.
And that was the WrestleMania 20 match?
Yeah, and to be a part of that journey with him, and John and I have been good friends for a long time, and literally one of the easiest guys I've ever worked with. I don't think, after the first couple of times that John Cena and I wrestled, I don't think we ever talked about a match from then on again as many times as we wrestled. Like, it was either he was playing cards or signing thousands and thousands of 8x10s at every show. And, I would just roll in and my music would hit and, good luck, be safe, have fun. I'd see him out there. He let me be, my character, and he was John Cena, and we just went out there and worked off each other. But to have that trust and that confidence in each other's abilities was a very wonderful thing to be a part of. The triple threat WrestleMania with Cena and Edge is another one of my favorites. That was I remember in February. It was February or January. We were in Peru, and I didn't have an opponent for WrestleMania, and I knew that Cena was working with Edge, and they had that whole program. And I was teasing Cena, breaking Cena's balls a little bit. I said, "Hey, man, I'm pretty good at taking finishes. If you need somebody to take a finish at WrestleMania, I could run down and take an AA real quick." And he laughed and smiled and smirked. And then when we got back on the bus that night, he told me, he says, it's going to be a triple threat, me, you, and Edge at WrestleMania. He made that happen. And the son of a gun, to show you what kind of a classy dude he is, the son of a gun thanked me for WrestleMania 20.
Wow.
He says, so, here it is years later. Here's the guy that literally picks and chooses who he works with, who is one of the biggest stars WWE has ever had, and had enough respect and just gratitude that the dude put me in a match at WrestleMania. I don't think people understand. Being at a main event at WrestleMania, one, you can work all year, work very hard, work very well, and still not get a match at WrestleMania. There's only so many slots available. And then those slots, are also will really impact your income for the year, because let's face it, it's entertaining, it's fun, but it's also about money. So then when you have a guy that throws you a bone, throws you a favor, and throws you in the main event of WrestleMania, he just, substantially just put a big paycheck in your pocket, says thank you. Like it couldn't be any better if he'd have just wrote me a check and handed it to me and said thank you. You know what I mean? So that's one of those kind of things that you meet a lot of characters in wrestling, you meet a lot of people are out for themselves, and sometimes you kind of have to be a little bit self-centered in this business to be successful, because it is a business. But to see the character that guy has, dude, he's aces in my book for life. That was super cool, and he didn't have to do it, and I was blown away just with humility and gratitude myself that he thought that well of the work that we had done, that he made it possible for me to be in that match. So it was a lot of fun. Plus, I got to make out with Vicky Guerrero, so yay!
Yeah, I did get to rewatch that, and I was like, wow, he's just going for it.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. You gotta go for it. And Vicky and I have been friends forever, and of course, I was really good friends with Eddie. But that's a good part about working with people you trust and you actually care about, because it's fun to do that, because you're blowing everybody's mind. Because let's face it, if you're going to do an angle like that and you half-ass do it, everybody can see it. It's not good. You either, like everything in life, either you do it or you don't. You don't halfway. So that was a lot of fun, and the Vicky slapping me on the ass on that one Raw was just hysterical. No one told me she was going to do it. I think I laughed for a couple of days straight thinking about her slapping me on the fanny like I was her little cabin boy, her little pool boy. It was pretty cute.
Now, Paul, I'm also a huge wrestling toy collector, and you are someone who's had
Okay.
figures throughout, like, it's basically 2 decades worth of toys, at least 2 decades, not more. You've had different toy companies making figures of you, so I'm wondering, what is your favorite action figure of yourself?
My favorite action figure? Well, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's the one I remember the most, is just going, there was two. There was one action, and this is the WCW area, so I think they were anyway. I won't disparage anyone, but they were two pretty rotten ass toys. One of them was Rey Mysterio came in the choke slam as like an extra, like a chair or a bat or a crowbar. Rey Mysterio was in the package in my choke slam hand, and I'm like, it's kind of rude to Rey. They made Rey like he was like 2.5 feet tall, and it's like, You know, if I was Ray, I'd be pretty pissed about that because, well, the respect for another talent. I don't mind the battle packages where, you like have me and Kevin Nash or Ric Flair and I or something like that. Those are kind of cool. But to have Ray just in the package in the choke slam was kind of like, that's a little bit much. But the one that sticks out in my mind the most that I'll never forget is the one with the red button on the side. The theory behind it was that when you press the button, it would shake because it was angry. It just vibrated. It was so just uncomfortable. Like, it's like a vibrating action figure. And it's like, I'm going to have to sign these someday in the future. And I'm really not going to know where they've been. And I really don't like the idea that this is a vibrating action figure. It's not cool. Like if the arms flapped around or did something, kind of cool that way, but just to sit there and vibrate like a toothbrush, I didn't get that one. Didn't get it.
Well, can I tell you, Paul, that Scott Hall said the exact same thing to me with his vibrating action figure?
There you go. Well, probably because when they came out, we were all bitching about it in WCW. Like, what is this? Like, why would they do that? Like, but hey, that's the thing about invention, trial and error, see if it works, who knows if it would have sold, 400 million action figures, I probably would have called it the greatest thing ever made. But, I don't think I sold 400 million action figures. So moving along.
Trek Untold will return momentarily.
Trek Untold is brought to you by Triple Fiction Productions. Triple Fiction Productions produces affordable and unique 3D printed Trek-inspired products from the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and the movies. Ranging from prop replicas to use in a fan film or cosplay, to accessories or playsets for figures in all different sizes, Triple Fiction Productions has got you covered. Past pieces for toys have included large centerpieces like 10 Forward from the Enterprise D, shuttlecrafts complete with working lights, and the Voyager Bridge, with smaller pieces including Borg alcoves, the Genesis device, and the dreaded arch-enemy of Worf, barrels. All highly detailed products are 3D printed and hand-painted in the USA, with new items added all the time, while simultaneously improving their printing quality based on fan feedback. To learn more about their products, visit triple-fictionproductions.net or visit them on Facebook at facebook.com/triplefictionproductions. Want to get 10% off your next purchase? Use code UNTOLD10 at checkout to receive this discount. Not applicable during sales or clearance events. That's code UNTOLD10 to get 10% off action figure dioramas, accessories, and prop replicas. Triple Fiction Productions, taking Star Trek where no 3D printer has gone before.
Hey, I'm Licia Nav, aka Ensign Sonia Gomez from Star Trek TNG, and now Captain Sonia Gomez on lower decks with her own ship, the Archimedes. Yay! I finally got a promotion after 25 years. So anyway, I'm here to talk about drivebydogooders.org. It's a little charity I run where we go to the outskirts of Skid Row, and from our car windows, we hand out basic human essentials like water, wipes, Coldstream cheese, socks, tarps, masks, t-shirts, things to keep people warm. So we just think that everyone deserves clean water, some protein, and a way to clean themselves, especially during Corona. We also hand out masks to those who really, really need it, who live in tents on the street, mainly the disabled and elderly who have a really hard time getting to services. And we do all of this with no agenda, just pure giving, no overhead. If you'd like to go to the website and donate, it's 100% tax deductible. And if you click on the donate button, you can go right to the $35 option and pick a signed autograph picture of either the Star Trek The Next Generation or Lower Decks, or Total Recall, where I played the three-breasted mutant hooker on Mars, and that's the X-rated version. Put in the comments section your address and anything you'd like me to write, and I'll personally inscribe it and mail it off to you immediately. And again, that's drivebydogooders.org. Captain Sonia Gomez, signing off.
We now return to Trek Untold.
All right, well, Paul, let's jump into our Star Trek discussion here. We got a lot to talk about with that, but before we actually even get to that, you have another Star Trek connection, and that's from, in fact, WWE Raw. If because you did an episode of Raw in 2010 where William Shatner was the host, and you actually did get to do a segment with him on the night where, by the way, you wrestled a very young and very Jamaican Kofi Kingston. But yeah, what do you remember about
Jamaican me
working with
crazy. Yeah.
Paul? What do you remember about working with Will?
He's amazing, man. I mean, just one, to grow up as a kid watching, Captain Kirk and being a fan of Star Trek, and then get to meet Bill. He was so kind, so gracious, so open, just super nice to everyone, super humble. And I've gotten to do a couple of autograph appearances, since that Raw. And I sometimes I get to see Bill at some of these appearances, and he's always so nice, and we shoot the shit and we laugh. And I can't express to you, sometimes you meet your heroes, it's a disappointment. You're like kind of sad that you met them because they didn't live up to the expectation. Bill Shatner was above and beyond any expectation I ever could have had. He was just a rarefied air as far as being a gentleman and kind and patient, and just I came into one of the autograph appearances one time, and it was the green room had a bunch of celebrities and some athletes and stuff like that, that were there. And Bill was sitting at a table. He had his glasses on. He's reading a book. I think he had a cup of tea going. And I came in. I said, "Bill, I'm here to get the money you owe me." And like the entire room just went dead ass quiet. Like they were like, "Oh shit, William Shatner's in trouble. Like what's going on?" Bill takes off his glasses and looks around, goes, "What do? You just give the guy the money," But just the way he did it was so funny and so nice. I always had a lot of fun running into Bill every now and then. Part of the joy of getting to do some of those autograph appearances, if somebody like that's there that I know it's like an extra bonus because I'm gonna get to see him. But working with him on Raw was cool. I mean, I've been very fortunate. That's what I think. That's why I can't be angry. I've been very fortunate in my career to work with some incredible people, from Will Shatner. I got to work with Betty White. So there's some amazing people that have come through WWE over the years. And of course, great Cyndi Lauper, and I've gotten a chance to Pee Wee Herman. I've got a chance to interact with those people. And as a kid that grew up seeing these larger than life stars on TV, and then get to interact with them, like, oh, well, they're people just like me. Imagine that. That's why I always try to stay accessible to fans and stay humble, because we're all just people. And some of my heroes that I've met have just been such fantastic people. They're good role models.
Well, let's jump back a few years and let's start talking about your Star Trek Enterprise appearance. That was on the episode Borderlands from the 4th season.
Yeah, man.
So I'm curious, how did you get this gig? Had you auditioned for Star Trek before?
Honestly, that was a long time ago. I don't remember how I got the gig. I don't know if it was one of those kind of things where I think they were looking for actors to play the Orion slave traders. Basically, the theory behind the Orions, they were a giant race of aliens. They were all supposed to be like 6'8" or taller. And I think they were supposed to register like 7 or 8 feet on the show, tall. Basically, remember the green chicks, the Orion green chick that Kirk was famous for making? Well, we're the male counterpart to her. So as pretty and lovely as the green chick was that Kirk made out with, we're these gigantic, heinous, bald, pierced, just a very pirate type species. Like that's one of the things, like you always talk about in Star Trek, how badass the Klingons are. But when you're looking at the Orions used to capture Klingons and sell them as slaves. You know what I mean? So we were we didn't have the warrior code like the Klingons, who had the kind of like that samurai code. We weren't like that. We were just a bunch of big, nasty ass pirates, I guess is the best way to describe it. So getting that opportunity came about, and I think someone from WWE, our WWE office, says, "Hey, would you be interested in doing Star Trek?" I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, where do I need to be? So I got a chance to do that, and it was really cool. The episode that was on Borderlands, of course, Brent Spiner was on there, of course, which he was playing Grandfather Soon, which was, really good. Scott Bakula was amazing. Jolene Blaylock was just absolutely wonderful. She was so funny. Poor thing. I was having to hold her and toss her around all day long, and she's maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. Like, she's tiny, you
Yeah, I was going
know,
to ask about
and
that because basically your episode is you pretty much picking her up and putting her down. Then you pick her up again, you put her back down. I mean, there's a lot of lifting,
yeah,
isn't there?
and it was a lot of lifting, but she was so just into it and funny, and really enjoyed. Um, she made my experience on Star Trek, because I was there almost like my whole Star Trek thing is kind of like a dream, because as an actor, I probably um, should have approached the role a lot more professionally. But to be honest with you, I was just so damn excited to be there. I didn't, I don't even think I left at all. Like, when you have breaks, you can just go back to your trailer. I didn't leave. I just grabbed a box that would hold me and sat and watched everybody work. I watched the set. And I remember Jolene and Scott Bakula were trying to get me to sit in the captain's chair. And I was like, no, I'm not worthy. I can't do it. I can't do it. Like, when we were, in between takes, says, no, you can sit in the captain's chair. I was like, no, can't do it. I don't deserve. Like, it was just, to me, to sit in the chair of the Enterprise, like, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to sit in this chair. Don't deserve it. I did stand next to it and, put my hand on it, but I did not sit in it. I was not worthy enough to sit in the Enterprise chair. Plus, to tell you the truth, I was about 500 pounds at the time, and my biggest fear was I'll sit in it and break it, then get kicked off in Paramount. I'll have Star Trek fans forever saying I broke the chair of the Enterprise, and they'll throw rocks at me when they see me in public or something. So
it might be true, but we know that you're a proper Star Trek nerd because that sitting in the captain's chair is a big responsibility. So I wouldn't have done it either.
No, you just can't. I mean, and you know what? It was just really cool to see the dialogue. The dialogue was, I remember the dialogue coach, she probably hated me because sometimes I have a problem. I'll say the same thing, but I'll use different words. It's the same exact meaning, but I'll use different words. But with Star Trek, they're very dialogue specific. So, I was just so excited. It was hard for me to get my professionalism together to make sure I nailed the lines right and got the right dialogue. I knew the lines, but in my excitement, I was so excited that, I was saying the same thing, but no, okay, sorry, my bad. But they were all super kind, and it was a great experience. And I was really hoping that they were going to do another season of Enterprise, because the rumor mill, and this is the actors that are trying to get parts, that are so ambitious, and those characters, the Orion characters, are supposed to start maybe having a bigger part in the next season. So I was hoping, before the Enterprise went away, I was really looking forward to maybe doing some more episodes of Star Trek, because everyone liked what I did, and we all had a lot of fun with it. And it was just a unique perspective to see someone as large as I was out there, doing that. So coulda, shoulda, woulda. That's like the old joke between Rock and I, that if I would run the Royal Rumble, I would have got to be in the Mummy. But we both know that's not true.
So since you're in Orion too, you're also wearing a ton of prosthetics. Not a ton, but a good amount of prosthetics. You have all the piercings, like you said, and you're also spray painted completely green head to toe. So
Yeah.
what was that
Yes.
makeup process like?
It was fun. I became really good buddies with Jeff, one of my makeup guys on Star Trek there, who every morning at 5 a.m. I had to stand there in bike shorts and get spray painted green, like he's spraying a dump truck. And but it's 5 a.m. in the Paramount lot, and people don't realize that LA has beautiful weather, but in the mornings it can get a little bit chilly sometimes. So I'm standing in one of the warehouses on a plastic drape, and I'm getting spray painted with this paint that's got alcohol in it to help it dry and stick so it doesn't sweat off. So it's super cold. And then at the end of the night, you can't go home covered in green. So you got to stand there with a bunch of towels and they baby oil, and they got to scrub all the green off it. I think I was digging green out of my ears and stuff like that for days after, but I was totally cool with it. I had like green stuff up my nose and all that other stuff, but I was totally cool with it. The outfit was really crazy. I had like an animal leather faux gator skin type pants, and I remember costume designer had a lot of fun with my character. He made this giant cod piece in the front of my pants that might turn sideways. Yeah, like yeah. When I turned sideways, it stuck out like a mailbox. Like I kept figuring I was going to bump into stuff with it, and it was funny. Like we were all having a good laugh at the cod piece. Like I'm running around with a mailbox sticking up the front of my pants. Like I guess it was before Dirk Diggler, but that's what I felt like.
And basically, if Undertaker was Big Booger Red, you were Big Booger Green for this episode.
Yes, I was definitely Big Booger Green. But you know what? Man, I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. That was just so much fun. And I was really, really surprised that, like, you know, Brent Spiner and Scott Bakula, those guys were also wrestling fans. You know, they had some wrestling stories and, you know, where they grew up and talked about going to events and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, you'd be surprised in the entertainment industry how many incredibly talented people that are also, you know, wrestling fans. It always catches me off guard because, you know, you're like, oh wow, you're a wrestling fan, wow. So really, you've seen me, wow, okay, well, all right, hi. I mean, what do you say, you know?
And I don't know if you know that this episode is also nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Stunt Coordination by Vince Dedrick Jr. And you did get to spend this episode throwing some dudes around. Do you remember at all working
Yeah.
with Vince?
Yes, Vince was great because he let me be me, and there was a lot of stuff like, you know, and Vince, and it's great when you work with great stunt coordinators. But Vince was great because he, you know, we were talking, and I said, yeah, I said, yeah. He said, oh, we'll cable this guy, and we'll do this. I'm like, you ain't got a cable. I said, where do you want him? He goes, oh yeah, pro wrestler. I'm like, pro wrestler, you know. And then right away he set some of the fight scenes up where I was actually just throwing these guys, and they were landing on crash mats and stuff like that. But I thought, for a TV show, that was one of the better fight scenes that I'd been a part of, some of that stuff, because it flowed really well and it felt realistic to the character. You know, I'm not going to go out there and be, you know, oh my God, that's a green Jason Bourne. No, we know that's not going to happen, but it's like, you know, if I look like a big green monster, then it works out. So I'm really happy that Vince got nominated for that. That's great. That's great. He deserved every bit of it.
Now, did you watch the episode when it first aired?
How many times? Come on, man. I'm gonna start. It's funny. I don't ever usually watch my work because it's like I barely will watch my wrestling. Sometimes it's really hard for me to watch wrestling because it's like I'm one of those guys that sometimes I'll ruin the magic out of something by picking it apart. With the Star Trek, I just enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed the performance of the other actors, and I enjoyed the story. And then, oh yeah, I was in it. I kind of ignored what I did, but I just enjoyed the episode, if that makes any sense. You know, but I'm not a guy that's going to have an entire, even at home in my house, I don't have titles up or action figures up, or, you know, I have one picture in my office that's me, John Cena, Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels, you know, hanging out after WrestleMania. You know, it's just the four of us. And that's not, and I have one picture actually of Paul Heyman and I too when I beat Brock for the title. Those are the only two wrestling pictures I have up. So it's just I'm like I said, I'm not a big live in the past guy, you know. But the Star Trek was great just because no matter what happens in life, I have been part of Star Trek. It's pretty cool.
So, Paul, is there any other memories that you have from working on that episode of Star Trek?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I have a really cool piece of Star Trek history. The makeup special effects guys that I were working with were, we got to do a lot of giggling, spray painting a giant in bike shorts every morning. So we all bonded pretty heavily. The guys gave me a bust of the Borg when the designers brought, this is what the Borg is going to look like. This is the bust that they took and showed it to them. So I actually have a Borg head in my office, the bust. So that was my gift from being on Star Trek and Borderlands. So it's pretty cool. Now, like a lot of people, if you're not a Star Trek fan, it just looks like some weird steampunk art. But if you're a Star Trek fan, you see it, you go, "Oh my God, is that a Borg?" I'm like, "Well, yes, it is. Yes, it is."
Yeah, that's pretty amazing because most people, they don't get to take home prosthetics, they don't get to take home makeup. You've got an actual Borg head from the makeup department. That's nuts.
Yeah, I got the bust. Yeah, the one that they made for
Wow.
to say, "Hey, this is what it's going to look like." So it's pretty cool.
All right, so Paul, as we come to a close here, I want to just bring it back to AEW real quick. And right now in the company, there's a lot of big dudes, and there's a lot of big people in general. You've got Luchasaurus we talked about. We talked a little bit about Lance Archer. We've got Wardlow right now. He's coming up. And then on the ladies' side, we've got Nyla. We've got Jade Cargill, Chris Statlander. So I'm curious, have you taken any of these folks under your wing and kind of given them some of your tutelage, being, a big man in wrestling, what it's like, what they should do, anything like that?
I do. As far as taking under my wing, no, not so much. I mean, they have, for their matches, they have coaches that they work with. But if I see something, and I've been encouraged by Tony and the other coaches, if I see something that can contribute, I will. I will give them some advice and let them know. But again, I always stress to them: understand the advice I'm giving you is my opinion. You have to do your character and what works for you, and the character that you're presenting. But simple, common sense things. I give them a few tricks of the trade. One of I call it a common sense thing in wrestling. When you know you're going to get knocked off the apron in a tag match, don't stand there and look for a guy to run across the ring and knock you off the apron. Go to step through. That way it looks like you're going towards it, and then it's easier for you to get knocked out because you're halfway between the ropes. If you just stand there, it's like the scene from Austin Powers when the guy gets run over by the steamroller. Oh no! Like it's know the spot, and if you know the spot's coming, then be interactive and be positive. And that's just a working thing that comes in time. Like great workers, like Bobby Eaton and guys like that, and William Regal, Fit Finley, Arn Anderson. Those guys never left themselves in a position where they were standing around waiting. They knew what was coming. They put themselves in a position to be aggressive or to be attacked in a way that made sense, rather than this. That's just one of the little timing things, because it takes experience to understand the beats in a match. And sometimes you think, oh yeah, I'm going to get knocked off the apron. Well, that doesn't mean you have to stand there and just get knocked off the apron. You can go to step in. My thing I used to do is I used to always go to throw my leg over the top rope and have somebody drop kick my foot, because how else do you get a giant off the apron? Then I'm on one leg, the foot goes out underneath. I can take some goofy little bump down the apron and be off the apron for whatever is required for the finish to go down, so I'm not there to see it. So that little stuff like that helps. I think those little tidbits, once you give those to a talent, they apply it, and then it starts to make sense to other decisions they make in the ring. So that, and it all comes in time. I mean, that's the thing. And another thing too is I hate people that get criticized. They get all this advice after a match, because hindsight's 20/20. You can tell what everybody did wrong after a match has already happened. Help someone before the match, or try to be positive about what they're doing, so that it's not just a constant bombardment of, well, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, because that doesn't help anyone. It's easy to pick stuff apart after it's already happened. But helping people in a way so they can make better decisions going forward, I think is a better way to do it. But everybody has their own style and their own flow. So, whatever works that helps the talent to understand their character and make a better connection with the audiences, I'm all for it.
And last thing for today, Paul, I know you're a part of many, many universes out there, but you are a part of the Star Trek universe. So what is the best thing about being a part of it?
It's just a unique club to be a part of, man. I mean, I grew up as a fan. I mean, I saw all the movies as a kid. I mean, I watched the TV shows. I mean, I had the DVD collections. This is how far I go back. The DVD collections, and with Picard and Voyager and all these different Star Trek genres. I had all those on DVD. Like, I mean, I remember I watched so much. I watched so much with Picard and Number One, and I think I was dreaming Star Trek, because I think I was like a nine DVD box set or something like that, and I watched all of them, so in a row. So yeah, I'm that guy. It's just cool to be a part of. I mean, and hopefully, things will continue to go forward, and I can go get my ass in another Star Trek. That'd be pretty fun. So we'll see what they're doing with Star Trek, but I need to push some efforts that way to get re-involved with the product. So hopefully we'll see. If they need a 7-foot tall bald green guy, I know a guy that might work. So there you go.
Well, I know Cody's a big Trekkie too, so we got to get you guys together on Star Trek Discovery or Strange New Worlds.
Oh, that'd be fun. That'd absolutely be fun. Yeah.
All right, well, Paul, thank you so much today for chatting with us. You were saying earlier how sometimes when you meet your heroes, you'll be disappointed. But, for me, I've been watching you since I was probably 16. I can't remember a week where I haven't seen you on TV. So, to get a chance to meet you and to talk to you, I've had goosebumps the entire interview. It's just been electric. And I cannot wait to see you knock out Shaq, hopefully this year. So again, Paul, thank you so much. You've been amazing. This has been a great memory, and I appreciate all your time you've given us today and all your great stories.
My pleasure, Matthew. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I can't wait to chat with you again in the future.
Thank you, and of course, as they say, live long and prosper, Paul.
You got it, my man. See there? Did no hesitation. Nailed
That's beautiful.
It. True fan.
That's it for this week's episode of Trek Untold. Shout out once again to Paul Wight for chatting with us and being one of the coolest guests we've ever had on this show. And of course, don't forget to check out AEW Revolution this weekend on pay-per-view, on Fight TV, or any place you go to watch live premium sporting events. This has the potential to be one of the most intriguing, one of the most fast-paced, one of the most hard-hitting, and easily one of the most violent AEW pay-per-views that we've seen in quite some time, and I think it's going to be one that goes down in the history books, so don't miss it. Until next time, please don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you're in a position to financially support the show, please consider becoming a supporter over on patreon.com/TrekUntold, or pick up some merchandise from our Redbubble store. If you're looking for direct links for any of these things, links will be right in the show notes. If you have any questions or comments for the show, or would like to suggest a guest, or discuss any sponsorship ideas with us, send me a message at trekuntold@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Trek Untold and for continuing to support this show. I hope you'll come back next time to learn more stories about Star Trek and beyond. Until then, I'm Matthew Kaplowitz, and always remember, fortune favors the bold.
Trek Untold is sponsored by TrekSphere.com, promoting fan-produced Star Trek content in all forms, is powered by the RageWorks podcasting network, and is affiliated with Nerd News Today.